Whiskey, Wine, and Wellness, episode 6. Bobo is here. First repeat guest, Pat Charette, back in the mix.
Hey.
Ready to do it. Pat, we'll start with the most important question of the day to start. We've got a delicious, probably delicious. This is a bootleg brand. This is just a red blend.
Does it matter?
It does contain sulfites, so be aware of that. And then we have, this actually I didn't even know this. This is right up your alley. It's called Second Glass American Whiskey, and also looks delicious. What are we drinking today, sir? America, straight up. Okay, American whiskey. Thank you to 21st Amendment Liquor down the street for sponsoring the podcast unofficially. Appreciate you.
Officially, unofficially.
All right, so we're coming out of COVID lockdown. Enough? Yeah?
Yes, that's good.
We'll start there. Many things have changed in fitness. We're doing a lot of things unconventional. Okay, I'll let it sit, as you recognized last time. Salute, or skull, whichever.
Oh, okay.
What's changed about your business with where you're at? How you guys helping people?
Through COVID and whatnot?
Yeah, I guess what's shifted with the new way we have to approach things? How you operate?
So at least I think the biggest thing for us is we had the right clientele for people to come back. I mean, we had a certain percentage scared, rightfully so, but we also had a large group of people that were willing to come back. And we were really lucky with the nice weather that we're able to open everything up. So we got enough space in studio, and when you have enough space in studio, we have enough space in studio, you got the front door open, so you got nice air coming through, right? Because nobody wants to be inside, right? Inside, oh my gosh, the world's ending.
Poor ventilation.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So we put, like every single other gym out there did, we put a new ventilation system that was supposed to help with that stuff, viruses in general, not necessarily
Nice.
COVID. Yep. And then front door open, back door open. Spacing was easy throughout the 5,500 square feet. So we always trained in blocks and zones anyway, so we're not on top of each other.
Right.
And we had a pretty good cleaning situation going prior to quarantine. So everything just came together. Coming back, the way it changed was just going online and doing some virtual stuff. Some people wanted written workouts to do so they could do them on their own. Some people wanted actual live video workouts to do so they could still be held accountable to the time. You're still trying to sell knowledge, intensity, and accountability.
Always. Shout out JJ.
The accountability is always there when you have an appointment.
Yep.
And what we saw was if we were using like some sort of app where it was written and the videos were demonstrated, so you could just kind of click them and do them at your own pace, at your own time, there's a certain percentage that wasn't doing them, obviously.
What's your guys' app look like? What's your...
It's not our app. We used True Coach app.
Okay.
So it
we
was
built
good.
off Trainer Eyes.
Yep. I've been in it. I haven't used it.
I like it. It's good. It's a little tedious.
All of it's just overwhelming for me. I'm not an app guy.
And if it's overwhelming for you, for your people, for the most part, like trying
it's
to
hard
get somebody
to explain it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain it. If we were doing like 300 people, 400 people, like if I was doing that, then I would just build out the programs and punch them in.
Yeah.
But obviously you lose some of the personalization with that.
Which is what they pay for in the first place. So
for in person especially.
Yep.
But yeah, that's how I would kind of mass produce it if I had to. But it's so hard to explain it. And if I'm struggling to understand it, how can I tell you what to expect?
Right. And you're joking, but you're like one of the more tech savvy individuals, I feel like, that I know anyways.
Sure, I'm alright with it.
But the thing I liked about Trainer Eyes, it links in. It's not bad, right? I don't mind it. America. How many America masks do you have? Like America's
just
like
one in the truck.
Okay.
When we go out after, I'll wear it.
Fair enough. Trainer Eyes incorporates, it pulls in MyFitnessPal data,
Okay.
which is nice.
Yes.
It pulls in Apple Watch data, so you can look at steps and activity and heart rate generally throughout the day.
Good.
There's a couple of the things that it imports, so you can like pull up like a nice client dash that you can actually, and it, like you can message within the app too. So it did, like if you're weird about sharing phone number or something like that, right? So that has some nice features, but I mean generally the biggest thing is you can assign workouts and it gives a video breakdown of how to do it. That's like the biggest thing.
That's a goal.
Yep. What's the shift been like to virtual training? Like, were people really receptive to it? Did they feel like they're getting enough value?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's something they could do long term, or is this a stopgap for until everybody comes back into full strength? Like, how do you see virtual?
So we're pretty full strength right now. Luckily, we're gonna have a really good month for 2020 this month.
Being open is good for 2020.
Yes, that helps. So virtual training wise, we had a hard time. If you're a personal training customer for 8 years, right, and now you're in your 50s, and you have a 30-year-old trainer, and you're like, hey, we're gonna switch to virtual, and you're gonna be at home.
Tough sale.
Very tough sale. So the people who participated in virtual training through the app, we did not see a drop-off of people no longer doing it and doing nothing. It was harder to get them started. Once they got started, they were in it. Okay. Nobody quit it.
Is your virtual, you're with them FaceTime, or they just have...
Through the app.
Okay.
So virtual through the app.
Okay.
They were doing it on their own. They were getting a written workout with a video demonstration.
Okay.
Once they were in the app, we had nobody quit. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 people. But
virtually nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing across the whole board.
Yep.
Same thing with face-to-face workouts, FaceTime workouts, or Skype workouts, or Zoom workouts, whatever you want to call it. So the live virtual training portion of it gets a little confusing.
Yep.
The live virtual training portion of it was the same thing.
Yep.
Once people were in it, they didn't drop off from it. And I've had so many people continue with it because I think I did a good job with it. But that becomes even more difficult because you got to have some sort of equipment in order to have progression. So
right.
Your next question should be like, what's the shelf life on it, right? So the shelf life on it should be broken into 90 days, just like anything. It's like any sort of fitness program. You should have your short-term goals to make your long-term goals, right? So that short-term goal should just be getting used to delivering the session as a trainer because it's different for you. And from a longer short-term goal, so closer to that 90-day mark, we should be in a rhythm now of what we're doing, and then start to see what's next.
Okay.
Do you need different equipment? Is that part of what's next? Do we need to do a different style? Like maybe we start doing some weird cluster set because all you got is one 15-pound dumbbell.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I started having people they had their 10 rep max one arm row weight, right? So instead of doing 10 and 10, I had them start doing 10, 10, 10, and 10. It's just a totally different feel.
Yep.
But that's something we
gotta get more creative with it.
Yeah, that's something we normally wouldn't do if we were in studio. It'd be like, okay, I'll increase.
Right.
Or, okay, we'll do a drop set.
Yep.
Or whatever. But all we got is one dumbbell, so it sounds basic, but it's those things you don't think about because you don't normally do them.
Right. Might actually be a good exercise in how would you train somebody like this, just to think outside the box too, because you would never, like you said, you would never run down that avenue with an in-studio client anyways.
Right. What we made a lot of as a studio, we made a lot of one dumbbell workouts.
Okay.
So basically we were like, all they have is their basement. We were nice enough and lucky enough to have people who participate in it to take our equipment during quarantine. So we obviously kept track of it and gave it to them, and then they brought it back. But we gave people one dumbbell.
Yep.
How are we going to make the best workout possible with one dumbbell?
That's cool.
And that was good enough, and it was great because it made us think, but it was simple enough where anybody could do it.
Yeah. I've always said, when you interview a trainer, like, you should be able to put somebody, like we used to do it in a racquetball court, but like you should be able to take a client in a racquetball court, no equipment, doesn't matter what the client is, and smoke them in 25 minutes probably.
For sure.
You should be able to figure that out.
You just go hands and knees and do a 60-minute step test, you'll be done.
16-minute step test.
60 seconds
step
test. Excuse me.
Jesus, it's a long step test.
2 sips into the whiskey, it's got me.
It's American. What are you gonna do?
But yeah, the mobile app, the True Coach app that we use was super beneficial.
Yeah.
it's a different clientele, and it's a tough sale if somebody has been a in-person client for X amount of time.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to sell that change, especially with somebody in their 50s and plus, because now you're asking them to get into technology.
And the accountability and face-to-face is like, I think what a lot of people consider personal training to be, why it would be effective in the first place.
Yeah.
So that would be my next question would have been, so what's the accountability piece on them? Do they have to like click, I completed this workout, and then if not, you guys have some sort of recourse on it? Or
Yes. We get notifications, they get notifications, they're supposed to click finish. As soon as they click finish, it goes straight to our app. There's a messenger portion, so it goes into the messenger portion of that app. And then basically you just celebrate that person to let them know, hey, I'm paying attention.
That's cool. Actually, I found that too. Like our app, again, it pulls in MyFitnessPal, and like I'll just like pop into it once a week and just look at everybody's, and if it's going well, I mean, it literally takes maybe like 15 minutes to like do it. But you're like, hey, saw you hit all your macro levels for this week. Great job.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, for people that's like incredible feedback. They love it.
That's all it is. You're just paying attention, and you're showing that you're paying attention.
Yeah. Just hold them accountable in some capacity.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on mobile training? So obviously, again, near and dear to my heart, on the table. Do you think it makes sense, in this time to go into somebody's house? You have equipment, they probably don't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you save them costs there. Like, I don't know. How do you think about bringing the gym to people?
I think it's perfect in the sense of during the nice weather, you knock it out, right? So you can do it in the driveway, at a park. As it starts to get cooler, you move into a garage or a basement. Usually most basements have a back entrance, so if a customer was attending a gym in person, they probably won't have a problem with you going in the basement back door. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Most of my clients don't have problems with me going in the back door.
That's lovely. So none of that should be an issue. As it gets cold, being where we're at, we don't get a lot of snow, so we don't have to worry about that, but we do get some like freezing rain and whatnot.
I feel like we do get less snow than people would imagine. Indianapolis at least gets. Northern Indiana gets a shit.
For sure. So the good part about the winter time is you can still do an outside workout.
Mm-hmm.
You can clear some space.
Yep.
And bring a shovel. You got enough room in there, right?
That's their cardio. Shovel this shit out.
There you go.
Figure it out, dude.
So clear the space and still do the workout. I don't know if I want to be out there for an hour, but 30-minute workout would make sense. You just have to take into account who it is and how their health conditions are. Because it's a totally different game when you're outside and it's cold.
Yeah. From
like a blood pressure, breathing, et cetera, et cetera. But mobile's great because you don't have to deal with a landlord.
Yeah, from a business. I guess I'm looking at it more. What's the client feel on it? Because I think everything right now with the way COVID is and getting people back into fitness is what level of engagement are people going to be comfortable with? And I think that's obviously why virtual is a topic right now, because there's no contact.
For sure.
But is there like an in-between there somewhere?
I think in-person can work especially too, because if you see like one of the hardest hit areas is like South Beach, right? Mm-hmm. And South Beach tried to re-close gyms after they closed the first time. They tried to re-close gyms and they became a petition to not close the gym because they followed every single protocol possible.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, just wear masks 24/7 inside the gym.
It's not really too feasible either, though.
And you're like, okay, cool, no problem.
It's hard to work out.
But it is hard. But if that's what it takes to stay open, I'm gonna do it. That.
Yeah, that's true.
But
good point.
My point is, the area's hard hit. They tried to close the gyms again. They stayed reopened. They followed the protocol again to put masks on when they followed all the cleaning protocols prior. Then they did some study in Miami, and they did all the tracing and whatnot, however accurate you think that is, whatever. But like nothing tied into a gym.
Right.
So a hard hit area who was following the protocols, who stood up for what they believed in, and then they did tracing, if you will.
Yep.
And they couldn't really trace anything to a gym. I think more and more of that is going to happen, so it becomes positive for gyms to stay open. And I've seen more and more of that since it's been like 7 months. So I've seen more and more of that come across, and I think people in fitness realize like you can't sanitize your life away. You gotta be healthy a little bit.
Yeah,
you can sanitize, but
there's always gonna be a level of risk either too. I think it's everybody has like a different risk tolerance.
Sure. And that's what I meant about people going. If somebody's in the gym right now, they're probably gonna let you, come into the basement for a workout.
Yeah,
You may enter and leave that way. I'm not going to track you through the house.
Sure.
But
I guess, and I agree with you. I guess if I'm playing devil's advocate, I think there's going to be more people than maybe I realize that are going to be like, this home is like the only last little like thing that you control, and letting any outside, I don't say outside, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like anything outside to come in is just like is a risk.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And maybe that's just them leaning on the excuse to not have to work out.
But then it's risk tolerance, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
What's my risk factors?
Right. Yeah, because I mean, because if you send your kids to school, that's more risky than having me come in a mask and train you for an hour. Like
for sure.
Sending your kids to school so they can.
Sure, they're in contact with way more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
But it can work. I like the mobile idea from a business standpoint. I like the mobile idea permanently from a business standpoint. I buy a pimp van and market the van out, or a pimp truck and market the truck out. We were talking about earlier, you stick a company flag hanging off the back of the bed with a TRX hanging off. I just drive somebody to a park and we're just doing TRX rows the whole way. Like, that'd be super fun.
If I picture you training somebody, it almost always includes TRX squats and rows. Like, when I picture you training,
single leg squats and rows is like I do pistol squats with TRX like all the time with people, and then just simple rows, 5 easy, 5 medium, 5 hard.
And for some reason, I hope she sees this one day, but like I always picture you training Nancy Werner, too.
Yeah,
I'll give her last name and everything.
Once in a while.
I hope Pete gets to play this season, Nancy. If you see this, I hope Pete gets to play.
Borderline creepy now.
Yeah, right. That's whatever. Go Bucks. So the other thing we're going to talk about was day one, new client, or maybe you just got somebody back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you set the table for, how do you set expectations for yourself, for them? How do you make them see the just like it's your new client, like in today's, like it's August 21st when filming.
Yep.
Either way you have somebody, how do you lay the runway for a successful relationship with a person, both what they should expect from you, what you expect from them, and make them see the picture to help create a good relationship that you're a long-term relationship with that
somebody
person.
Brand new.
Yeah, probably brand new. That's probably the best. Clean slate.
Well, brand new to me.
Brand new to you. Yeah,
like a new customer, right?
Yep.
So how do we set expectations?
And maybe not even that. Maybe that's not a part of it, but that's what I would think. But like, what steps do you take to ensure that you have a long and fruitful relationship with this person?
Well, I think any relationship is has a lot to do with listening, right? So if I can't listen to you tell me in a consultation what you're looking for and what you've been through, and I can't understand that and regurgitate it back to you to prove that I'm listening, we're already -1.
Yeah. 100%.
How do you build a relationship? Well, you take somebody through the consultation process, you listen to them, you understand them, you take them out and do their small workout, if you will, or movement assessment, whatever it could be, workout, FMS, you name it.
Yep.
And then you end up showing them and telling them, hey, if we do this, this is going to make your problem better. Hey, if we do this, this is going to slowly make this work better. The thing that's been bothering you for so long. Basically, you're just trying to solve their problems that they just told you about in the seat. Yep. And then at the end of it, I think the best thing you can do is just tell them the game plan. Hey, in the first 30 days, it may seem a little slow, but I need to get you better mobility so we have less pain. And then once we have the better mobility, it's going to be a lot easier and it's going to be more efficient to gain strength in the next 60, 90, 120 days. Okay. If you tell them and communicate, any relationship is based on communication. If you just tell them and communicate what to expect and why you're doing it, then you're in a better situation to succeed.
We always like being in a better situation to succeed. Do you ever feel like you run the risk of sacrificing maybe what people's expectations are? Because you mentioned like, hey, it might be slow to begin. Like, I think when people go and they're like, hey, I'm going to hire a trainer, I'm ready to just like kick ass and just like go hard as hell. Do you ever feel like you run the risk of like you might not meet those expectations and you might lose that person early on? Because people think they're just going to be like pouring sweat, and like sometimes that's not the right thing to do professionally, but sometimes it's hard not to push towards that because inherently in a service industry, you want to meet the expectations of the customer at the same time.
Yep.
So it's a tough balancing. Like, how do you think about that?
So I do 99.9% 30-minute workouts, right? The last 7 minutes has got to be sexy. Last 10 minutes has got to be sexy.
Define sexy.
Got to be hard. Got to be breathing heavy. Yeah, relax.
Okay.
Got to be breathing heavy. Like one of my go-tos. So like if I'm trying to help somebody decrease shoulder pain, we'll work on that for 5 minutes or so. Then we'll get into our like warm up, and now we're 8 or 9 minutes deep, and you're like, oh my god, I'm only working out for 30 minutes. How are we gonna do it?
Right.
So you got another 10 minutes, 12 minutes of just the workout, getting the strength portion down.
Yep.
It's really easy to get people tired. If you can't get people tired as a fitness professional, you're failing.
Back to basics.
Yeah. So it's really simple. If you got somebody who's low skill,
yep.
One of my favorite things is slam ball and plank. And that's the hardest thing in the world because
Why that?
Because what you're doing is you're taking a slam ball and you're throwing it as hard as you can, so you're becoming violent. Okay?
Okay.
So your muscles work differently when you throw.
Max effort stuff.
Yeah, your muscles work differently when you jump.
Okay.
So you're throwing something, so you're getting tired, you're moving through multiple joints. So if I pick up a medicine ball, I'm going from my ankles, knees, hips, all the way up, and then all the way down. And then as soon as you go into a plank, there's like oxygen on the floor, right? That's why in a fire, it goes up.
Yep.
So, I mean, their heart rate's going to increase right away.
That's interesting.
So I love slam ball and plank. And whatever variation, if you want to do level 1, 2, or 3 on a plank, cool. If you want to do a heavy or a light slam ball, cool, you pick. But just those two movements, putting somebody on a rower who actually knows how to use it correctly, again, going through multiple joints. You're going from ankles and extending all the way up. So something like that will get somebody tired. Or if they're higher skill, you can go through a dumbbell complex. You know, 2 dumbbells. You do, say 2 dumbbells, for example. You flip them up for front squat. You do a couple squats. You do a couple presses, and then you go into squat to press full. Yep. And you just tire them out that way.
Just build on it.
Yeah. So depending on their skill level, you can do something like that. But just finishing strong will carry over. Now, if you don't do that, and you still run the risk of potentially not meeting the expectation of the customer.
Yep.
In a consultation process, you should always ask 2 questions. Have you worked with a fitness professional before or a personal trainer before?
Sure.
If so, what'd you like? What did you not like? And then you do what they like, and you don't do what they didn't like. Simple.
Yep.
And then you should also ask. I forgot now because Bo barked. You should also ask, what would it take to measure this out as a success?
Yeah.
What does it take for me to say, hey, you know what, that was money well spent?
Yeah.
And then you have that answer. And if they say, I don't know, you have to lead them to that answer. Again, you're the leader. You're carrying the customer.
Right. That's what they pay you for, quite literally.
Correct.
A couple of things. That was interesting that your slam, like from a technical perspective, slam ball and plank is interesting because it's like, it's an isometric hold and a violent movement, whereas most people spend, those are like opposite ends of the spectrum, and most people spend most of their time in the interim and never get either. You know what I'm saying? Most people never do anything static hold or super violent.
Sure.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Try a one-legged wall sit.
No, I'm good.
One-legged wall sit, superset with lightweight, high reps, leg extension. That's
Sounds
fun.
awful.
It's not fun.
Put some blood flow restriction bands on.
That's the reason why we make people do it and we don't do it.
That's fair. Yeah. So, when you're getting like those expectations from people, what do you normally get like when you're leading them to that, like what does success look like? Because that's, I mean, that's a difficult thing to pull out of people because I feel like a lot of times they don't know the answer to that.
Sure. So as a salesperson, right? You've done this before.
Yeah.
When I ask that question, my expectation is that you say, I don't know.
You should expect that to be the case going in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want you to say that because if you say I don't know, and I go, okay, well, if I'll use this as an example, if we make your hamstrings a little more flexible, you have less shoulder pain, and you start to, become stronger on picking weight up from the ground. Don't you think that would be a success?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Now I just built value, and we haven't even done a single thing yet.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to do is solve problems and build value in a personal training sales sense. So it's not even me selling you.
Yep.
It's just me communicating. That's how I look at it. It's me communicating better with somebody.
So how do you balance the? I feel like I've said that a bunch of times. Like, how do you balance the? Because nobody wants to work towards somebody else's goal. So obviously you don't want to be overly like suggestive of like, would this be a success? Like, because those are like good questions to like lead somebody down a road.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make sure that that's something that they really care about? Because in the moment, obviously like people like are very emotional in the moment, and they can just be like, yeah, that sounds great. Like hamstring mobility, that sounds great. But what if they're, I don't know, what if that's really not what they care about? Like, how do you make sure that that's a valid?
Well, if that was an example, so if I'm going to say that in that example, then that person would have to tell me that during the consultation. So I'm not just pulling it out of thin air. Okay. It is correlated with what they would say their goals are, like what brought them in today, what are their goals, what are you looking to achieve here inside the studio. Okay. It would just be me listening, because I listened to them, now I understand what your goals are. Now I'm going to ask you a question later down the road, you say you don't know, I'm just going to reiterate your goals to you so you hear them from me. Okay. Because a lot of people know, but they don't know how to express it.
They can't articulate what they really want.
Yeah, and it's really simple because you're holding the paper and that you filled out while they were speaking, because you're just like, you just told me. Yeah. This is how it would be a success if you achieve this. Yep. And a lot of people go into fitness and never achieve anything, so.
Most people.
Yeah. They get kind of hesitant from that, and if they hear you say it, or if they were like, I don't know if I can lose 5 or 10 pounds. That's a small goal. You can definitely do that. Right. It might be big for you mentally right now, but we have people that lose 5 or 10 pounds all the time, so it's not a big deal. Right. And they'll be like, oh, okay, well, if people really do it, then why can't I do it? Maybe they think like that. That's what you hope for. Yep.
It's weird how people will be more apt to share things with you as a fitness professional too, because and I say this only because I had a recent example of, I have a guy who, he's like a big wine guy, so we bond over talking about wine, and he goes, I'm 50, I forget what he is, it's 53 or whatever, he's like, I'm 53, and he goes, and I've realized within the last 2 months I've had to like apologize for my drunken behavior twice. And he's like a really well put together guy, like very successful guy. Sure. And he's like I'm kind of embarrassed about it. And he's like, I think I'm gonna do this. And he like laid out a plan for like how he's gonna not drink. So I was just like the sounding board for it. And he goes, it's weird, I haven't really told anybody about that, even my wife, but just like, to your point of like being a good listener that you mentioned a couple of times, like sometimes you just sit there and just like let people sort their thoughts out.
I totally understand.
Yeah, and they just,
no, I know what you mean.
They totally figure out their own shit without you actually having to do anything.
Bounce ideas off the wall too, and they just want to hear your feedback. 100%. And the only reason why they'll tell you that is because you've built that trust with them.
Yeah, that's real. So last thing, been going over this with some people. So before we'd ask you like, what are the 3 characteristics of like really good trainers that you would want, and we already went through that. So what I've been doing now more recently is, if you were giving somebody like, they could only do I've been doing 3 things again, but 3 things that if you could do these on a regular basis daily, that these would make the biggest impact on you getting into the shape that you want to get into. So like client advice, that would be almost more like blanket. Yep. So it would have to like encompass health.
What would you want your customer to do? What would you want your customer to do to be the healthiest they can be?
Right. The way I've been describing it as like, if you could only write down like 3 rules to give to your clients, then you couldn't talk to them for like an extended period of time. But these would cover most of the basis. Like, what would you give them? So for me, like a big one was like some level of condensed feeding window was one. Some low level cardio on a regular basis, like walking the dog, stuff like that. Cold shower, stuff like that. There's been a few other weird ones that like are like things that you would do, like that you could.
Those are things that would have never popped in my head in the top 8.
But those will be like, for me, those are things that you can do on a daily basis that will move the needle, even if you can't work out. Sure. And you can take that however you want. Like yours can be obviously totally different. But what would you think that you would give to people? Like your 3 commandments of like, I can't see you for 6 months, so here's what I want you to do.
So sleep's 1.
Okay.
I don't get enough sleep. I knock out 4.5 to 5.5 all the time.
Wow.
Animal. 4.5 to 5.5.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right. So, Definitely sleep, because you're going to feel better. You're going to be able to take care of the kids, and actually, if you are exercising, whether you're on your own or with a professional, you're just going to feel better upon entering.
Yep.
And if you feel better mentally and physically when you go in to do it, then you're probably more apt to do it consistently.
So what on sleep? Like
just get enough sleep. 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever you feel like you need.
Okay.
Don't get poor sleep. Don't sleep less. Don't not sleep a lot. However you want to put it.
Okay.
Just get adequate amount of sleep.
Yep.
Number 2 would be stretch, because if you are exercising, again with a professional or with not, you're going to exercise more efficiently if your muscles can go through a full range of motion. If you have a tight muscle, that means the muscle is shortened. So if the muscle is shortened, you're going to have less balance, you're going to be weaker. Like I'm a righty, but I one-arm row more weight with my left because it's in a better position. I have less injuries on my left side, I have all my injuries on my right, and I have a bigger range of motion. So if you stretch, you're more apt to move better, move more efficiently, and I think that is going to help and increase results, especially in a 30-minute workout. Remember, I do 30-minute workouts.
Okay.
And then the last one is drink a healthy green shake. If you're digesting and going to the bathroom regularly, you're going to be less bloated, hold less water, and feel lighter. And that's going to give you a feeling of, hey, what I'm doing is working. So our whole goal is to be consistent. If you're not consistent and if you don't have a solid foundation, you're in a tough spot. You want to be in a good spot. I think that's, I think those three things off the top of my head will help.
Product recommendation? Sponsor the podcast.
I know, right? There you go. That'd be something. Anything green. Anything green that's not don't buy athletic greens. $100 for 30 days. That's a ripoff.
It's pricey, right?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Good marketing.
Life greens?
Good marketing. Oh.
We got a couple bottles of life greens up there if you want some. Johnny. So recap.
Yep.
Stretch.
Sleep. Greens.
It's pretty straightforward. Interesting. Nothing. Minimal diet. It's interesting how everybody's is different. Everybody's is very, very different.
I want people to feel the best they can feel.
So you prime it for the workout. You don't focus on you prime the body for the workout. And then
Exactly.
Go from there.
Exactly, because anybody can exercise, because people don't come to me because I have the new and improved workouts. You know what I mean? Like,
simple.
I teach people a solid foundation. I want people to feel better leaving upon entering, so I'm not trying to wreck you. I'm trying to teeter-totter in that 7, 8, and 9 level.
Yep.
Depending on what your skill level is. And then I want you to feel great. And I can't control what somebody does outside of the gym.
Yeah.
So if you're drinking your greens, staying hydrated, because it means you're going to drink more water, because you have to mix the greens powder with the water.
Yep.
And a lot of people drink coffee. If you go water, greens, coffee, protein shakes, some order, you're going to feel great in the morning if you come work out at 8, 7:30, 9 o'clock. If you get all that in,
it's a lot of fluid in for...
You're going to get fluid, you're going to go to the bathroom, and you're going to have a little bit of caffeine, and all that is going to help you feeling better, feeling more alert, you name it.
I like it. Any other advice for the people? What do you got?
Don't suck.
Come to Body Outfitters.
They ain't coming to Body Outfitters in Carmel and Zionsville.
Swag.
But, consistency. That's the key.
Right on.
You know that.
Always in a good situation to succeed.
Hey!
Skull.
This video is brought to you by UberFit. Looking for a fitness program that works for your busy life? UberFit is the premier on-demand fitness solution for Carmel and northern Indianapolis. UberFit coaches bring the gym to you, offering a full health club experience and equipment package, including free weights, squat rack, conditioning equipment, and the guidance you need to perform at your best. Prefer a more traditional gym experience? Schedule time at UberFit's private studio in downtown Carmel. Make fitness fit. Visit uberfitindy.com to schedule your day one today.